Old economic dogmas have been cast aside in favor of raw capitalism. The results are dramatic. Since the Beijing massacre, the economy has grown at a staggering rate of 9% a year and is now the fourth largest in the world. 15 years ago, this entire skyline didn't exist, just paddy fields. China's rise is the story of the 21st century, and it is rooted in the events of 1989.
How bizarre that a Communist Party, which has spent decades trying to fight capitalism, should suddenly turn to capitalism as its saviour. There was a point to that. This was meant to buy the Communist Party a new lease on life. On the one hand, intimidate opposition for a generation. On the other hand, give the people bread and circuses. And the deal is there must be no challenge to one-party rule. That's the terms of today's China. That's the deal.
That social contract, if you will, up to this point has worked quite well for the Communist Party and for the elite and now the new middle class of China.
When the old state-owned industries were brought to their knees, 30 million people lost their jobs and had to find their place in the new competitive market economy. This state-owned steelworks was saved. It had to be. It was the only real employer in a one-industry town. Under new management, output has increased fivefold. But 40,000 workers have lost their jobs. The company school, the company hospital, the company nursery, all closed down.
There really seem to be two Chinas today, China A and China B. China A is big cities where businessmen and foreign governments go. Beijing, Guangzhou, Shanghai, Shenzhen. And then you have China B, the undeveloped or developing China, which is the vast majority of the country. This China is still very poor, not getting better because all the economic growth is concentrated in the cities. They face problems that are really problems from developing countries. Very low education, not enough water, not enough economic resources, not enough infrastructure. It's a profoundly unequal system, and it's a system whose contradictions we see every day are playing out more and more. Education and healthcare, which are the two main benchmarks for the advancement and the progress of a society at large, have totally collapsed in the past 20 years. Education used to be free and accessible for every child in China. But now there is not one kid in China that doesn't have to pay to go to school.
Children of farmers in rural areas just can't go to school now because they can't afford it. Healthcare, something like less than a penny in American money per year in the rural areas is spent on healthcare. It's virtually gone. It's just not there. So if you get sick, you depend on local herbal remedies and folklore or die.
It really begs the question, what is in the mind of the Chinese leaders? Is it to make China a rich and powerful country on the international scene, or is it to try to bring into the 21st century the entire Chinese population? This is a conscious choice, a conscious decision. China is a country that allocates one of the smallest parts of its GDP in education among developing countries. I mean, you have African countries whose share of the GDP allocated to education is larger than China. So there is a deliberate choice. They do see and they do understand that part of the Chinese miracle, economic miracle, is based on the fact that they have such an abundant, cheap, pliable workforce. Western countries have chosen to close their eyes on all the negative aspects of China's economic and political model, because their interest lies with making money with China. Multinationals benefit enormously from the police aspects of the Chinese state and from the authoritarian aspect of the Chinese system. They all benefit from this, and so they are all very happy about it. The people who are not happy are invisible. They have been erased, they have been airbrushed from the scene.